If you listened last week, we were talking about things that sometimes go wrong at Disney, and we got about halfway through our list. So this week, we're talking about more things that sometimes go wrong at Disney. This is episode 56. I'm Soraya.
I'm Aurora.
And together, we're just your average Disney travelers. Okay, if you haven't listened to episode 55, I would recommend going back. Although there doesn't have to be a particular order on this. You could listen to this first and then go back. But anyways, we started talking about things that sometimes go wrong at Disney because inevitably things will go wrong while you're at Disney or on any vacation. Excuse me. And so these are some of the things that frequently do happen. It doesn't necessarily happen every time, but some of these things, it's likely that you'll run into one of them. And we're going to talk about things that we can do to try to prevent. And then also, what do you do if you find yourself in that situation? We don't have the solution for everything, but we'll share what we got.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we at?
Getting stuck on the wrong side of the parade route.
Yeah, so this is like sometimes right now I don't think we have, well, they're starting to bring back parades. When you have a long parade coming through, they won't, if you're on one side of the parade route and you're trying to get to the other, you have to wait a while until there's a break in the floats, and you don't get to choose when that break is big enough. The cast members do. And so sometimes you might be sitting there waiting for several minutes, 10 minutes.
What does it mean to be on the wrong side?
So like maybe if we're in Tomorrowland and you're trying to get over to Adventureland and the parade is coming through there right through the around side of the hub and towards Main Street, and you can't cross because the parade is going along the street, and they have cast members there at the crosswalks to keep you from crossing, and so you aren't able to cross right away. So that's what it means to getting stuck on the wrong side of the parade route, where you're not watching the parade, you're trying to get somewhere, but the parade is between you and where you want to go, and you have to wait in order to cross. So to prevent that, it's kind of be aware. If you know you're trying to get somewhere and there's a parade going, get over there before the parade gets there, or come up with a different plan.
Yeah.
And if you're stuck in that moment, really just be patient and wait, because get yourself to a crosswalk. And when there is a large enough gap between the floats, they do plan them to occasionally, every so many floats, they have a large enough gap that it allows for people to cross quickly. But you have to hustle, because then as soon as that other float's getting within a certain distance, they close that back up again, and whoever didn't make it across is waiting. So anyways, yeah, the best thing is preventative. Just know, pay attention to the times, the locations, and if you're trying to get somewhere, make sure you cross over before the parade gets to you.
Yeah.
All right, next.
Not agreeing on what to do next.
Yeah, if you have a bigger group especially, I think this is more of a problem. Have we ever really had that? I don't know if we really go into
us. I don't think.
Yeah, we haven't really had that problem. But if you have a large group, or if you have very opinionated, like people have very different ideas of what they want to do, this can be a problem. What are some things that you can do to prevent that? Do you have ideas?
Probably come up beforehand, together, strategies, okay, let's kind of maybe almost a kind of a drawing sort of thing,
a drawing, you mean of a raffle, or
no,
a drawing
out of a hat,
okay,
or I don't know, just or come up with kind of talk about it beforehand,
have expectations that everyone is aware of.
But if you can't decide what to do, I guess it really just depends on what you guys are.
So I think one of the things is good to talk ahead of time about what people's priorities are.
Yeah.
So what do you know, for all of the people in your group, whether it's your kids or if you're with friends or other, families or whatever, talk to each person and see what their top most important things are to do. And so then you already know what the priorities are, and you can kind of already been making sure to plan for that. And so that way, when people know that their priority is going to be met, then they're usually more patient to wait to get to their turn, as long as they know their turn's coming. So that's one idea. Another thing is also, especially, like I said, managing expectations, talking to little kids about taking turns. I remember when we would go when my kids were younger, when Aurora was younger and her big sister was younger, we would talk about, look, we're not always going to be doing the thing that's really our favorite thing to do. Everyone is going to get to do their favorite things. And so when, be patient and understand, go knowing you're going to sometimes be doing something that's not your favorite because it's somebody else's turn to have their favorite. And so just kind of knowing that. But the biggest thing too is if this is a larger group and you're having a problem with this, and these are all like maybe different family members or older individuals, whether they're teenage kids or young adults or whatever, break up, split up a little bit. It's okay to take some time where the big kids or the older group goes and does some thrill rides while a parent takes the younger kids to do some Fantasyland rides or something like that. And so, I think that there's an element of sometimes that helps keep the peace too. But planning ahead by talking a lot and making sure everyone knows what is important is good. Mm-hmm. And then, if you need to, take some time apart so everyone gets to do what they want. What's next?
Getting charged a $10 cancellation fee for not keeping a dining reservation.
These are for the advanced dining reservations. When you make them, they take your credit card and they don't usually charge you, except there is a few exceptions where they do. But for the most part, you don't get charged until you actually go and you are at that meal. But they take your credit card because if you don't show, there's a $10 per person no-show fee. Yeah, so if you've got a family of 4 and you don't show up for a reservation, that's a $40 hit. So, know ahead of time. This kind of goes back to last week we talked about not overbooking yourself. And so, when you're making a reservation, first of all, make note of it. Put it in your phone, set alarms, write it in your itinerary, whatever you need to do. Make sure you have it in maybe multiple places so you don't miss it and don't forget it that you've made a reservation. And try not to overbook yourself. I don't think every family's different. Some people, maybe they do really want to have multiple dining reservations where you're sitting down at table service per day. I think most people that I've talked to, and here we are, the average Disney travelers, I think the average Disney travelers tend to have maybe one a day, and then they do quick service or maybe even bring in some meals. So if you're just doing one a day, then you're not going to find yourself overbooking yourself as much. But being aware of that, don't overbook yourself. Pay attention to when you have reservation times. Put it in your itinerary on your app. Put it in your alarms on your phone to remind you, because sometimes you get caught up. You're on a ride or at a show or just having so much fun that you lose track of time. Make sure that you're getting an alert to say, hey, you have a dining reservation in an hour. Hey, you have a dining reservation in 15 minutes. Get over there, And so that way you don't miss it. But if something comes up and for whatever reason you're not going to make that reservation, you need to cancel it the day ahead of time in order to not get charged. There have been cases where you can cancel that day and they will, they won't charge you that fee. They'll just kind of God, what's the word? My mind just went blank. But they'll let you cancel without charging you if there's a legitimate, like someone got sick or something came up. But don't count on that. Don't wait till the last minute. If you know you're not going to make it, cancel it the day before. Otherwise, try to get there. Get there and use your reservation so you don't get charged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having unused dining credits at the end of your trip.
Now, this is also a Disney World thing, because this is if you're using the dining package, which currently has not come back yet since COVID, but we expect it will. We don't know, but we're waiting for it to come back. So when they have had the dining plan in the past, and we can only assume it'll come back in a similar form, you get X amount of credits. You get a credit, depending on what size plan you're getting, is what kind of credits you get. But at the end of your trip, if you have unused dining credits, you don't get that money back. And so one mistake a lot of people will make is throughout their trip, they'll pay for food, even if they've paid for the dining plan. They'll get snacks or something, and they figure it's because they are expecting they'll need those credits for later. And that's a big mistake. It's better to use your dining plan, and then if you want more, pay for it at the end. But the truth is, most people end up with extra at the end because the dining plan's pretty good amount of food. And
Yeah.
so I would, first of all, try not to if you're getting a dining plan, don't get one that's bigger than you need. I think the regular Disney dining plan is usually the best option. The deluxe is overkill for me. Maybe if you have all teenage boys and grown men, you would use it all. Or if you're doing fine dining and signature dining every day, which takes twice as many credits, then you would use it. But for the most part, the regular Disney dining plan is plenty of credits, and even at that, we end up with extra. When we've done it in the past, we've ended up with extra snack credits at the end of the week.
Yeah.
So choose the right plan for you. Use it. Don't pay cash for anything or credit card for anything. Use your plan. And then at the end of the week, if you find out you have credits, what I like to do is go and get snacks that are whether it's chips or treats that are sealed, or even whole pieces of fruit. So anything you can take on the plane with you, and then use those as snacks for the ride home.
Yeah.
So everyone can have, a piece of fruit and maybe a bag of chips and a treat like Rice Krispie treats or something like that. And that's 3 snack credits per person that you could do if you had a whole bunch, which you might not have quite that many, but still. Anyways, all right, next one.
Motorized scooters will run you over, and sometimes strollers.
Yeah. Oh man, you don't have to be at Disney to experience that, where you're in a large crowd and people are trying to get somewhere, and a motorized scooter is like totally hitting the backs of your ankles,
Yeah.
or a stroller. But man, those motorized scooters can be they can kind of be a little crazy because they actually sometimes can have the power to go quite quick.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can do to prevent that.
Have good shoes.
Yeah. Maybe wear shin guards backwards. No. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. There's not really a prevention, but like just afterwards, kind of be kind to those because.
Yeah,
and I don't think anyone would ever really do that on purpose.
I should hope not.
If they do that, I mean, you can't really tell anyways.
Yeah.
Really, unless they're just like, that's what you get or something like that. You're like.
That might just be one of those situations where you just kind of have to be the bigger person and
yeah, and just feel like it. Just be kind.
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, we don't have the solution for all these.
Yeah.
That hopefully people are just considerate when they're around you.
Yeah. Kids not being told enough to ride attractions they want.
I have a picture of you sad about not being able to ride one. I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Is it like the picture of Callie looking at her empty plate of food when I forgot to feed her?
I compared that to you. No, there's a picture of you I want to say it was at Disney World, and Dad's holding you and you're doing a sad face because you weren't tall enough to ride an attraction. I can't remember which one it was though. But anyhow.
There are many rides I could go on.
At first, yeah, when you're younger, it really, there's so many different height requirements, and they're varying heights. So a child might be old enough to want for one, but not another. And sometimes the intensity of the ride, it doesn't make sense, but it's not about the intensity. It's about the safety, about what motions are happening and what the chair and restraints, what they're built for. And so every one of those height requirements or limitations, keep in mind, again, it's for safety. It's not worth your kid not being safe just so they can ride a ride they really want to ride.
Yeah.
It's really just not worth it. So how do you prevent that?
Just talk to them before and be like, hey, there are going to be some rides that you might really want to ride, but you cannot ride them. And that's because you won't be safe on them.
Yeah. And let them know that you're going to do something else that's fun. Maybe when they have those times where they can't ride something that their older siblings are riding and they really want to, you do something else that they're going to, maybe you go find a character that's one of their favorite characters, or you do a ride that they love, or you take them and get them a special treat. Because it's hard. It's hard to be somewhere that's supposed to be totally fun and other people are still having fun, but you can't. Little kids feel it. And so keep that in mind. Talk to them ahead of time. Another thing I think is, again, with the realistic expectations. Measure your children with the shoes that they're going to wear in the parks. Measure them on a flat surface like a hard floor and have a real good idea of what their height is. And if they're on the line, not only can you coach them to stand tall and stuff to help, but also don't build up their expectation that just because if they're on the line, it's really the cast members. They're gonna, some cast members will let them and some might not. There will be times where it's not it doesn't feel super consistent, and it's all based on each cast member's judgment call at the moment. And so have the talk to them and let them know we're going to try to get you on these rides. Some we know we can't make it, some we might be able to. These are things you can, try to stand tall, but we'll have to wait and see. And so that helps if they already know that A, they might not be able to do it, but B, there's going to be something fun instead that they can do. That might help. And if it happens where you really thought that they were going to make it, and then you're in a moment where they're just devastated because they can't, I don't know, bribe, I don't know, churro time, ice cream, I don't know. I've heard sometimes cast members occasionally, and again, this is going to just vary based on the cast member. I've heard some that have given them, like, I haven't seen this myself, but I've heard that they've had like a pass that they would give the kid, and they'd say, look, we're so sorry you can't come this time, but we really want you to ride this ride. So this is a pass that the next time you come, you can go and get to the front of the line. You can skip the line because they were so disappointed. Can't guarantee that's going to happen. I'm not going to say it will, but I've heard of it happening. And so I think the cast members really try. They're not there to break the kid's heart. They're there to keep people safe.
Yeah.
So they're trying their best. All right.
Lost items.
Yeah, this happens. And it might be something that's not as important. Or it might be something like someone's favorite toy that's like,
Ooh, that'll be rough.
So lost items, they do have a lost and found. And when you go, you can tell them what you lost, and hopefully if you have an idea of where, then that helps. I remember one time getting home from our trip, and about 2 weeks later getting mailed some things that we lost. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think there was an autograph book and maybe a disposable camera or something. I can't remember what it was, but they mailed them to us because we had reported it. And so then when they found it, they mailed it to us, and we did get it back. But yeah, so preventative, I don't know, keep track of your stuff.
Yeah, if you can, like if there's places for you to put like information on them. Like,
yeah, put your address and phone number or something like that in an autograph book, for instance, or something like that.
Yeah, if you can.
Also, I have usually not allowed my children to bring favorite toys or, the most important things with them on trips, because if they were to get lost, it's hard to guarantee to get them back. So they often will bring toys or blankets or things that they like that were comforting to them, but not necessarily their very favorite.
Oh, no, I still did bring.
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, like at least like
your
the
blankets,
yeah.
But the blankets didn't go into the parks either. Those stayed at the hotel.
Definitely not into the parks.
Yeah. Okay. And so yeah, check. They do have lost and found though. So label your stuff and then check with lost and found, and hopefully you get it back.
Forgetting items in your room or maybe even at home.
Yeah, and that happens too. You can actually replace a lot of things in the parks. They do have things like phone chargers.
Yeah.
You can get medication, chapstick. You can get, clothing. There's
not gum. You cannot get gum in the parks.
That is true. You cannot get gum in the parks. But you can get most anything else. And at Disneyland, you also have stores that are close. You can walk to, like a CVS. So there's a lot of things that can get replaced if you forgot, toothbrushes, things like that. But generally, in almost all those cases, you're looking at a lot more money than you probably want to spend. It'd be more than you'd pay for at home.
Yeah.
So, if you're at a hotel that's nearby, you might just be making a trip back to the hotel if you forgot something you needed. I think it's just a matter of make sure you know what you need, and good luck. And it'd be inconvenient to go back to a room to pick up something you left, but it's not the end of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
So, all right. Maybe just being aware of that will help you be more careful leaving the room, making sure you get everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Your phone battery dies.
And this is especially common, and it's going to become more common as the Disney Genie is rolling out and being used, because you're on your phone so much just to manage your day, to use the lightning lanes if you're going to do them, or to check wait times. All of that. But even without that, taking photos and stuff like that.
And we were using them quite frequently before.
Yeah. So what do?
We limit, we definitely put our phones on battery savers and all that. But we also bring chargers and portable batteries.
Yep.
and charge them every night.
Yeah. Make sure everything's fully charged, including your battery, the
Yeah, we
battery.
don't really spend extra time on other things on our phones.
Yeah, we're not checking our emails, and we're very rarely checking anything like Facebook or something. I usually try to wait and post those kinds of things after I get back to the hotel if I'm going to. The other thing is on rides that are long, we put our phones like in airplane mode or even turn them off sometimes, especially rides that go underground. So think about Pirates, Indiana Jones, but especially Pirates, because Pirates is kind of long at Disneyland, especially, and it goes underground. You have zero signal down there, anyways. So throw it into airplane mode because you're not going to get a phone call or a text or anything, anyways. If it's in airplane mode, you can still take photos or video if you really want to, but you're saving power. And if you are charging, like say you're connected to an external battery, that will charge faster if you're in airplane mode or powered off. And so that's what we try to remember to do. And the same with when we're in shows. If we're watching a show, which we don't have as many going on right now, but as they start coming back, hopefully soon, if you're in a show, same thing. Battery, either turn it off or put it on airplane mode.
Yeah.
Okay, next. We have had experience with that more recently.
Yeah. Chafing and blisters.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Friction, people, friction.
Yeah. I haven't had problems with blisters in a while, so
That's
which
good.
is pretty lucky. But last time had a very interesting chafing
Yeah.
issue.
So plan ahead, prepare. We had forgotten that time to bring like the Gold Bond, but whatever anti-friction method you have, they have great sticks that'll work. Wear like bicycle shorts or whatever underneath your pants. Maybe that'll help. Wearing synthetic, not using cotton socks, making sure you've got, whether it's nylon or polyester or something, some socks that are not going to be as prone to blisters. That helps. You can use, we like Leukotape P, which is a sports tape, but it works really good at preventing the friction for blisters, preventing blisters. You can also use moleskin.
What did we use when I had that chafing problem?
Leukotape P.
Yeah.
We ended up putting that on where you were starting to get the chafing, and it worked.
Yeah, and it had no issues afterwards.
Yeah, you left it on for a couple days and then took it off in the bath.
Yeah.
So that way it was wet and not as likely to hurt coming off.
Yeah, and that worked great, so.
If you're in the last minute and you forgot your Gold Bond, then use your Leukotape. Hopefully you have one or the other at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can use Gold Bond on your feet even, I've heard. I haven't done it very often. I think I did it once, and I didn't get a blister, but I don't know if that would have been a day I would have gotten a blister anyway. I have no idea how effective it was exactly. I just know I didn't get a blister. But, yeah, so both those things, you don't want to end up with blisters or chafing because that makes every step painful.
Oh, yeah.
It just is a really fast way to ruin your whole experience.
And it can get really messy and it's awful.
Yeah. So prevent as much as possible. And if you're in the moment, there are things like blister Band-Aids, liquid Band-Aids, things like that can help to relieve the pain. Switching your shoes so that your pressure points are a little different. Just really taking it easy. And again, with the chafing, you can put on bicycle shorts. Make sure you pack some of those maybe. Or using like a Leukotape or something over it. It's kind of hard, but you can do it and it
Feels
works.
Weird
it's weird at first, but you got used to it and it worked for a couple of the rest of your trip. Yeah, so those are ways to help relieve that. And along the same lines, now we're going to get into some other things that are similar: sunburns, dehydration, heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
Sunscreen. Prevent sunscreen, drink water, take breaks, don't wait until you have those problems, because again, those are things that will really ruin your trip. You're exhausted, you're in pain.
Yeah, I got sunburned very badly once on a cruise, but it was luckily the last day of the cruise.
Thank
but
goodness.
We had a couple extra days, but it wasn't on the cruise.
Yeah.
But
and it did make it hard the rest of the day.
Yeah, if it had been at the beginning, that would have
ruined the whole cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sunburn on the first day of a vacation ruins the whole vacation. Just
make sure you sunscreen multiple times.
Sunscreen in the morning before you leave, sunscreen again at lunch or midday, halfway through, so that way.
Make sure to take care of your eyes. I often will accidentally put
Yeah.
too much on my forehead, and
Yeah.
my eyes will hurt.
Yeah, don't put too much on your forehead, because when you sweat, it gets in your eyes and that burns. And that also is a way to have a very uncomfortable time until you get it flushed out. So yeah, sunscreen responsibly and drink lots of water. Water, water, water. If you don't like water, get those water flavored packets to help make it more enjoyable, I guess. That tastes more like punch or something, or I don't know, like a Crystal Light or something. But drink water. Soda does not count.
Yeah.
And then again, still along the same types of lines.
Getting motion sickness or just getting sick in general.
Yep.
Injured.
So motion sickness, you can prevent a little bit by using things like ginger. Like I have ginger pills that I take, but there's also ginger gum, ginger candy, ginger ale. So those things help to settle your stomach. And so I often will take that preventatively before I'm about to get on something that I know is prone to make me a little queasy.
Oh yeah, also knowing what will
Yeah.
make you sick.
Yeah, if you know going around in circles is going to make you sick, do not get on the teacups. If you know that simulators make you sick, don't go on Star Tours. Don't go on Smuggler's Run. Don't go on the things that you know are going to make you sick. If you are questionable, then like I said, you can maybe try some ginger. There's other things if you don't get so drowsy with them, you can try like the Bonine or any one of those anti-nausea medicines. There's a motion sickness patch you can get. I find that it has other side effects that are unpleasant for me, so I try not to use that. A new thing I'm trying, I haven't done this at Disneyland yet. I'm going to try it on our next trip, but I have used it when I've gone boating, and I have always gotten sick on a boat, like little boats. And I went on boating this summer, and I used a relief band, which is a bracelet that you wear on your wrist, and it sends an electrical pulse through right onto a pressure point that I don't know how it works, but it somehow makes it so that you don't get nauseous. It's similar. It's the same pressure point that you would use C-bands on, but C-bands don't tend to work for me very much. Yet
it's mostly just putting pressure, I feel like, on the C-bands.
But the relief band, that pulsing, and I could control the intensity. I could raise it or lower it as needed. It really did work for me, and so I'm really hopeful it'll work at Disneyland. I don't know yet because I haven't tried it, but I will try it soon, and then I'll be able to report. But there are tools and things you can use to try to avoid motion sickness, but knowing what you shouldn't ride is probably your best bet. If you get sick while you're there, take a break. Sit down, lay down if you need to, find some shade, get some ginger ale if possible. If you need to even go back to lay down for a nap or something. They do have a first aid center. Some of the other things we just talked about, the chafing, the blisters, the sunburns, all of that, heat exhaustion. They have a first aid center in every single Disney park, and they will give you what you need. They'll help take care of you. They don't even charge you for the medicine. So if you have a headache, one of the things we just mentioned with this was getting sick in general. If you have a headache or a cold or you're feeling sick in any way, go, or if you fall and scratch your knee, whatever, they've got Neosporin, they've got medicine, and they will treat you and give that to you so that you can feel better and get on with your day. And so use those centers if you need it. If you get injured, it does happen. Preventative thing, one of the things I try to say is to insure your trip, because if I've had, my sister got hurt on her first day at Disneyland on a one trip. It was supposed to be like a week-long trip. And she got hurt and they had to go home because she had an injury and she has an illness that makes her a little bit more susceptible to problems. And so she had to go home. And thankfully they had that trip insured. So they were reimbursed for everything they couldn't do. And that made it so that they could then take the trip again the next year. And thankfully then she didn't have any problems and she was able to. But it basically, that insurance paid for the trip they went on the next year.
Yeah.
So it may not, stop you from having something interrupt your trip, but it'll help reimburse you so you can redo it. You can get a do-over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that.
And
And make sure you bring your insurance cards, like medical insurance, in case you need to go to a doctor or something.
Yeah.
Because it does happen. I've had clients whose kids got ear infections or things like that.
Ear infection.
Yeah. I mean, it just happens. Kids get them. and they discovered it came when they were already at the parks, and so there were a couple days where that kid saw the doctor and then had to get medication and everything, but everything that they couldn't do got reimbursed, and then just the going and seeing the doctor and all that stuff, because they also had insurance, actually, I should say. But anyways, you have your medical card, so you can be seen and your plan can cover you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, because we're
running out of time.
Yep.
Blowing your budget.
That's not hard to do.
No, it's not.
It's really easy to spend a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so do you have any recommendations?
Plan beforehand and like talk to your group or just yourself, I guess, depending on what the situation is, but like what your plan is, like what you will not like I don't know exactly, but like
what kind of dining you want to do, how much you plan to spend.
And if you were going to get souvenirs, like
right.
if you have a bigger group, be like, okay, everyone gets one or two.
Like if you have a large family, obviously. Yeah.
Or if it's just like, or even if it's smaller, just like putting a limit if
each kid gets $25 or something like that. And
and just discuss beforehand, just like to avoid going over budget.
Yeah. Another tip I would say is I like a website called allears.net, allears.net. And they have on they have information about Disneyland and Disney World. And under each of those, there is a category for dining, and it has a list of all the menus that are offered in any place you can eat in the parks or anywhere on Disney property. And the thing I find that most helpful for is looking over what the options are and the price ranges are. And sometimes they include photos. And so that way you can plan ahead of time, and you may not be a planner where you want to dictate to yourself everywhere you want to go, but maybe you make a list of your top options of what you feel comfortable with or what would be good options for your family, and then you have an idea of what price range you're looking at. So you go ahead of time already having a healthy idea, a realistic idea of what you'd be spending. Another thing is you can prepay for some of that. Either at Disney World, when it comes back, you can use a dining plan where then at least the food is already prepaid for. You're not going to have surprises because it's already all covered. Or even if you're not doing that, you can always get Disney gift cards where you pre-purchase ahead of time and you use that to pay for things. And it doesn't necessarily, you could still blow a budget technically that way, but at least, one of the ways I try to think about it is, I'll have gift card for my food, the food I usually already have an idea of what we're going to have, so I have a good idea, a realistic idea of finances on there. But the souvenirs, I could shop, and it's easy to get out of control. And so having gift cards already, it's like, this is my limit. And so I already have the money spent, it's already right there, it's allotted for that, and it keeps me on budget a little bit. So if you happen to go over budget, well, I guess beans and rice for the next month or two. I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, be realistic, I think, is the biggest thing. Go in knowing theme park food is always going to be more expensive than if you were anywhere else almost. And then we've said so before, portion controls portion sizes in the parks is actually pretty big, and Aurora and I find that we're able to share meals almost all the time. And so even though it is more pricey, share meals then, or adults can order off a kid's meal too. And so if we're not sharing, then we'll both order off a kid meal, and that helps keep the price down a little bit too.
Yeah.
So we don't need full meals each ourselves. That would be a lot of food.
Yep.
Okay, next one.
Disney tech is glitchy or fails completely.
And that happens at time. I think that we see that more at Disney World, or we have in the past, especially with they've used like magic bands, and they had everything connected electronically for their fast passes back in the past and things like that. And that is a nightmare, because when that goes down, like everything goes down. And it means that if people were using their magic bands to pay for stuff, they now don't have money to buy things because they were using the magic bands, but the magic bands aren't working, or what a pain. Disney is kind of, unfortunately, it's known they just have these problems. They have these glitchy problems. And that's why I think we were all so surprised when last month they started Disney Genie on October 19th. We all thought that morning it was going to crash, and it didn't. So maybe they're finally getting a handle on it and preparing adequately ahead of time. Maybe they've had enough experiences where it was not a good experience that they're learning from it. If it happens, I always say, travel with a little bit of cash in your pocket, not a lot, but a little bit, just in case you needed to get somewhere, or to have something to eat. I don't know. I think patience is, again, something you need to pack when you go to Disney, and realize that sometimes if you're relying completely on your electronics, if something, their system goes down, make sure you have the hard copy ticket as well, your park tickets, not just on your phone. But yeah, I don't know if there's really anything else. What can you think of?
I don't really have
Yeah.
anything else.
I think we're kind of getting done with this topic too. We're like, okay, this has been 2 episodes and we're at the end. One last topic, one last thing.
Kids get scared or freaked out.
And this happens a lot with little kids.
Yes.
Because we have these like ideas of what it's going to be like, because we see these videos of other kids seeing their favorite characters or whatever and going to Disney and having great experiences. But if a child isn't familiar with being in Disney or any theme parks with these larger than life characters, they're used to these characters on TV screens and sometimes on phone screens. They're inches tall,
Yeah.
And then they get to this park, and Mickey Mouse, who they thought was like 6 inches tall, is all of a sudden 5 feet tall, bigger than they are. And so it's huge and overwhelming. And even their very favorite characters, they can become frightened. And then there's also things like rides that maybe end up scarier than you expected, or they react to it differently than you expected. And so, what would be some of your advice? What do you think? You're so tired. Oh, careful. So
I just got held by a tree.
yeah. So what would be your advice? How to prevent a child from being as scared or freaked out?
I don't know about characters because I am still just uncomfortable around characters.
So I need to exercise some of these things for you.
Oh no, please don't. Okay, but like with rides, it's kind of hard when you have like if your kid like doesn't have experience with the park, but like kind of like start off easy.
Yeah.
And like just notice when they start getting nervous around like especially drops.
Yeah, don't
And
push
also
them onto things that they're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, just like if you're starting to see like they're not comfortable around like dark like places or like drops, then kind of like be like, okay, so they'll probably
pull back on that a little bit.
Yeah. And also if there is a ride that they've gone on beforehand and they did not have a good experience on,
Don't
don't force them, at least not until they get to a more reasonable age where
let them grow up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Before they
Because
try
I
it again.
remember first time I went in Indiana, not a great experience for me.
Yeah.
Then the next time I think we went to Disneyland, I remember Dad tried to get me on the ride, and I mean he did because I didn't have really a choice, but I was just not having a good time in line. Like I was just crying.
Yeah.
Because I was just terrified of that ride.
Yeah.
And like that, because like sure, yeah, like I didn't have like I think I closed my eyes the whole time during that ride.
Mm-hmm.
But even though I didn't necessarily have a bad time on the ride, just the experience of wanting to not go on it so badly and then being forced onto it was a bad experience in itself that I think probably made it
worse for the future. Yeah, for longer than it necessarily needed to be.
Yeah. And so like if they are just not ready, then don't force them.
Yeah.
Wait a little bit.
Yeah.
And so
So some things that you can do beforehand, moms and dads, you can go and first of all on Disney's websites, both Disney World and Disneyland, you can find a list of attractions, and each attraction is listed and it gives you a little bit of an insight of what to expect. So if Disney is new to you too, and you don't even know what to expect and you wouldn't know if it's something that your kid would want or not, you can go and get an overview of each one. It'll tell you, is this dark? Does it have scary moments? Is it loud? Does it go upside down? Is it fast? All these things, and it'll give you a little bit of a glimpse into it. And then my next piece of advice would be to go to YouTube, search for that ride, and look for a point of view video, because you can literally watch any ride at Disney on YouTube and see what it is you're going to experience. Do make sure it's a current one, so because sometimes things have changed. Like for instance, Snow White's Scary Ride or Scary Adventure that used to be at Disneyland now has been changed to Snow White's Enchanted Wish. It's a completely different ride. They have different scenes, and so some of the dark, scary scenes have been replaced. So make sure it is a current version of whatever it is you're looking at, but it will give you an idea, and that, if you know your kids, will help you to make a good judgment call of whether or not it's something that they would like or not. And when it comes to the characters, being afraid of those, one suggestion my sister has given on this podcast before is looking up other character interactions with children of the similar ages as your kids, that are positive, and showing that to the kids, because then they can see, oh, that little boy or that little girl had a fun time meeting whoever it was. They look at how happy they were. So that way, when they get there, hopefully that's kind of the mindset they're coming from. Meeting Mickey Mouse is a happy thing. And so they won't be as scared. But the other thing is talking to them. Let them know, hey, this is Mickey Mouse. He's as big as Dad, or he's as big as Mom, or whatever. And he's so nice and fun. And, I don't know, talking it up, it helps. One thing that, this isn't really a scary thing, but even just prompting your kids on how to interact with characters. And don't force it. Like, if they don't want to talk with them, they don't have to. And the characters aren't going to force it either. They will kind of be really low key and just take a picture and smile and wave, and then they'll let them go. But if your child wants to and is a little nervous but doesn't know how to interact, prompt them. Let them know. Say, hey, what's a good question we can ask? Maybe Pluto, we could ask him if he had a bone yet that day, and if he'd had a treat, or if he'd been a good dog, and then you can give him a scratch behind his ear, or, like little tips like that to help them to know what to do. It'll help ease their anxieties about it sometimes, because I don't know, even as an adult, sometimes I wonder how to interact with some of the characters. And the more that you talk to them ahead of time and prepare them, the easier it'll be in that moment. That's the part I was saying I should probably do with you on some of the characters. But we don't really meet characters anymore except for your favorites. Yeah. Marvel. Anyhow, those are the list of things that we have either experienced or witnessed or are familiar with that sometimes happen and that are undesirable at Disney.
Yeah.
Hoping that none of these happen to you on your next trip, or quite frankly, us either. But and if they do, then maybe some of those tips will help. But that's it for this week. We will see you next week.
See you.